So yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to this first Norway Cineclub. We hope, of course, there are going to be some more, but for now, this is the main and the first one. We're very happy to have here Barbora Kysilkova, who's the artist and main protagonist of the film, The Painter, the Thief, that you just saw. So Barbara, if you want to say hi to everybody.
I want to say hi to everybody and thank you for being here.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming. Absolutely. Yeah, we're just really very happy. Yeah, well, I guess that we're really quite a few tonight, and I'm really delighted about this, you know, because each film is completely different, and basically we're going over all the Scandinavian countries right now. We've done already Finland, we've done Iceland, and now we're doing Norway, and then we also did Denmark. So yeah, so it's quite a it's a traveling adventure. It's like traveling. Since we're forced not to travel now, we're all in prison and we're blocked and we can't go any place. At least with imagination, at least with cinema, we can go places. So yeah, no, I just want to, you know, of course, I know that we were talking before, so you're a Czech artist that worked in Norway, that you actually live in Oslo. Is that where you usually are?
Yes, yes. Well, we're now together with my boyfriend. We're kind of traveling between Oslo and kind of remote area in Swedish forest, which is close to the border. So it's close to Oslo, but it's sort of, we feel it's okay to leave the culture for a while and to bring our drops of culture to the nature. So it's sort of more like Swedish forest and Prague where we are now.
Right. Okay. So that can, you know, it tells us a bit about your art, you know. So your art, from what I've seen, from what I've seen in the film, it's based on people most of the time, right? Is that where you're really interested, a human being? So can you tell us a little bit more about this?
So I just want to say, probably most of the people that are here tonight with us watch movies which mostly are about people. So I think I do find some kind of platform of understanding that human being as such is a great universe of search, and we still, even though we are one of them, we might still know quite never enough about ourselves. So there I find, as a painter, I find much bigger curiosity myself in seeking in a human nature than the actual nature. I find much bigger inspiration and much bigger challenges in giving thoughts and colors and brushstrokes and time to human figures, because that's what I really want to understand. And I feel like I might maybe be more likely to understand the Homo sapiens than to understand the structure of a leaf. However, nature is insanely beautiful, every detail, every aspect of it. But I kind of feel, as a human being, I just want to, you know, stick around with my species. So, and to find out what to find out there.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. What I gather from the film is that you not only you do like big picture, you know, big paintings, and you know, like the one we're in the gallery that was stolen, but also what I really think the film, it's so unusual, so original, is the fact that you didn't go the hard way. You didn't react like most society or most people would do. You know, in a way, it's like, say, the thief should be punished. You know, so you know, thinking about punishment instead of recovery. And so what you thought is actually to use the restorative justice. You know, something that this person could understand what he did, or could understand what art is all about, instead of just, you know, just sending him to prison and that's it. That's the whole thing. So that can you develop a bit more about the concept of restorative justice, which I think is absolutely great.
Sure, and I would love to. But first and foremost, I should probably emphasize that it's something else probably if there's a person that steals your painting than if the person steals your car, you know. Yeah. It's a totally different thing. And to be honest, when I first got the news from the gallerist that she called me at the moment of the robbery, or when she discovered the robbery. So of course, the first reaction of mine was a pure confusement, because it's like, what am I supposed to make for sense out of it? Like, why would anybody steal my paintings? I would rather understand that somebody stole my car, even though I mean, my car really was not worth stealing and still is not. But on the other, and then, you know, then I called my boyfriend, Oystein, that you also met in the movie. And his first reaction was, baby, congratulations. And there I got it. Like, I mean, of course, this is such a strange, almost like a homage to my art, that somebody decided to break a law in order to get my piece of canvas.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in a certain twisted way. It's kind of actually it's a real.
It's a tribute.
It's a tribute. Yes, thank you. That was the word. It's a tribute to my art. So this, of course, is something that was spinning around my mind also at the moment when I was entering the actual courtroom where the court case was happening, and I could not really find a space for any anger, because I was just curious, because naturally our brain tries to make sense, some kind of logical sense of the events happening around, whatever that is. And I just could not.
Your art piece that clearly you had some emotional, like a lot of emotional connection with. So yeah.
Yeah, no, of course, I mean, emotions, yes, it is very emotional, everything around it. And somebody stole very like precious pieces of my paintings. But, you know, as once more, I mean, painting is not a car. It's not the usual kind of object that you can sort of have just a material connection to. There were emotions. And it's just, it really wasn't easy to feel any anger, to be honest.
Sure. Yeah, no, but yeah, I mean, the comparison that you're making, it's perfect, because I mean, if somebody steals a car, you didn't make the car, so there's not an action in it, there's not a creativity in it. You just bought it, and you know, it's a piece of metal, and you just use it, and you know, when you don't need it anymore, you won't use it. You know, it's not part of your family, it's not part of your environment. You know, it's just an object like many others. So yeah, and then, you know, restorative justice for somebody who steals a car, what is it? Go into a factory and learn how to make a car. So
in this case, actually, I got my justice back, because I forced my thief to pose for me for free, so that I could turn him into art or into a painting. So I got my kind of justice back, let's put it this way.
So yeah, totally. Yeah, because also because you just created a relationship where there was only, you know, he was probably an enemy at the time, or somebody that you didn't know, a stranger, and you know, and you just bonded and you created actually, you know, a relationship, which is.
I never felt he was an enemy, and that's also, you know, as I tried to say a little bit, the very first moment when I was entering the court case room, the courtroom, I was foremost curious than angry. I was just really curious to see who are these two people who decided to break a law in order to get my canvases, so that I would finally have some sense around what happened and why it happened. So I was really mostly driven by curiosity and no plans whatsoever of like where that will go. Of course, you cannot really plan life. I never plan my life, you know, I just do things, and what happens, happens. And it sort of paid off, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, it's a, also, I think that's the positive message that has come from this film, that, you know, it starts with a violence, because I mean, a robbery, it is a violence, it's an aggression against the art, against an artist, against everything basically, because, you know, they had to break into a gallery, they had to, you know, steal, run away, sell the painting. So the whole thing, it's definitely, you know, just a very, you can't call it another way than violence. But then, you know, it turns out that, you know, you can actually transform it, you can turn it into something else, you know, all that negative energy can be transformed and, you know, come out in a, you know, the fact that you actually, you know, talk to each other and you understood each other, and it became one of your subject of your painting.
Right. I wouldn't say it better.
Yeah. No, I was really very touched by the film, definitely, and I guess most people. Yeah. By the way, in case somebody doesn't know, the film, it's nominated, shortlisted for the Oscars. So.
And for BAFTA as well.
For BAFTA, oh wow, yeah.
Actually, in BAFTA, and that's a true surprise and homage. It's not shortlisted for documentary, but for the best international movie, which I found really, really exciting. I mean, you know, I would imagine, and I'm not from the film world, but I would imagine it's not happening quite often that a documentary movie is actually put to the category of, you know, something else than documentary. So
on that note, can I ask you, like, how does it feel to be considered an actress rather than, or an actor, like actor, actress? It's a bit of a kind of like ambiguous kind of like title at the moment. So how does it feel kind of like being considered that rather than kind of like making a documentary and kind of like projecting something that was actually happening in your life at that time?
For this, I have a wonderful scene to share with you. And that was 1 year ago when we still were allowed to travel. So we went to Sundance with the movie where it premiered. And at one of the screenings, there was the Q&As, the questions and answers. And the audience, from the audience, there was a lady, and she asked me very seriously, I really, because I sort of think I would tell if the Americans are joking or not, but really she was serious. And she asked me, what for acting training have I had that I acted so well? And okay, at that point I was already a little bit tipsy, so I tried to be kind of funny, and I kind of with a serious face, I said, excuse me, madam, but that was a documentary.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you were kind of a bit tipsy at the press conference. How do you find public appearances? So because there were a couple of kind of like bits of interviews in a film, and also
I tell you, it's like that.
Documentaries. Cheers.
Okay,
Cheers.
I think most of the visual artists, especially painters, I think we're kind of most comfortable in our bubble, in our atelier, in our studio alone, where we just breathe in and inhale the fumes of the turpentine and the oil colors, and just, you know, just the world, asking the world to give us a piece so that we can create something then we can send out to the world, which is then the art piece.
Yeah.
So for me, you know, and once more, let me go back to the Sundance, where I just sort of then came to US from my studio in Oslo, where, you know, I was just there in my own universe. It was either my boyfriend or Bertil coming over for a coffee from time to time, but the world really stayed away. And then suddenly I was there at Sundance in this big cinema. I don't know how many hundreds of people there were at the premiere. And then when I was invited to join the stage after the screening, suddenly the audience started to not only to clap their hands, but I had standing ovations. It just felt so obscure. It was like, man, I mean, okay, well, and I decided there and then, of course, I decided like I had to play along. So, you know, I kind of open up for it, because also I knew it's only going to last for a few days, and then I'll just go back to my dark studio. So it's all fine. I kind of accepted it for that moment. But then, yeah, like more and more interviews happened, and it all happened through the COVID, only on the internet. So like, of course, a lot of other international film festivals were canceled where we were supposed to go. And to be honest, I was so happy because I was just allowed to stay in my studio and to paint instead of traveling around the world. And I'm not the biggest fan of flying. So I can't sort of complain for the 2020 situation. But yeah, it's, you know, it's somehow like me as a quite an introvert person. Then when I'm put into such extreme, like standing in front of 500 people in the cinema, like it's just such an opposite, such an extreme of such other scale that it actually does give me some sort of pleasure, but only because I know that it's such a short term, and then, you know, I'm just allowed to go back to my cave, let's say.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's totally understandable. We got a question here from Annie. Annie, would you like to ask the question directly, or should I just read it?
Yeah, my question is, I was really puzzled at the end of the film. You see a last painting where you're actually in an intimate position with Bertil on the sofa. And I'm really puzzled by this painting. I wanted to know, is it to show the intimacy of the relationship, or is it because there was more than that? Or, yeah, why this painting, and what was the idea behind it?
Thank you for the question, and it's pretty daring, but as I said, of course, there is no question which is a taboo. I would just say it's all that you have said. The painting is all that you have said, and I'm definitely not, as a creator of the painting, I'm not at all in the position to tell you what it is and what it is not. Mm-hmm. But of course, I'll be more than happy to maybe give you some, let's say, clues from what made me to make the painting. Mm. So maybe, I don't know, if you were better, or if you're a good observer, you might have seen that the actual sofa where Bertil is laying on the final painting is the same sofa that the Chloe and Emma, the two girls, are painted on, the painting that Bertil stole. Mm. So I actually took the same setting of the sofa, but instead of the two girls, I put Bertil on it. And there I also made a reflection of my older painting from 2010 or 2011, which is called The Heartbeat, where you have two figures. One is laying down, it's a male figure laying down, and the other male figure is leaning over and is trying to listen to the chest of the other. So it's a combination of the two paintings, of the Chloe and Emma that was stolen, and the older painting called Heartbeat, where one person tries to figure out the heartbeat of the other person. And probably no need to say that there were quite countless times when I wondered whether Bertil's heart was beating. So through this, I realized I really want to make a new version of the painting of the Heartbeat, and he is the kind of main character of the painting. And along the time, his at that time girlfriend fell off the scene because they split up, and it just did not feel right to use her, which was the first plan. And there I understood, well, I'm the creator and I have certain freedom to create what I want to create. With all, of course, freedom comes with responsibility, definitely for me, absolutely. So with all that knowledge, I decided to somehow also pay back what I felt I owed to Bertil. Like I felt I should expose myself as well, not just him, you know. And I did want to have some sort of composition where we are together, and it just fell together as puzzle. And that's the result, the final painting.
I really enjoyed the fact that you lost one painting, but in the end you have 3 or 4 paintings with Bertil. So I thought it's actually better than actually punitive justice. You actually got so much more than just the lost painting.
Totally.
Okay, if I may say one thing, and it sounds very pathetic, but let me say it. You know, now knowing what all I gained by getting to know Bertil, I actually would really sacrifice Chloe and Emma painting for that, I have to admit. So yes, you're totally right, Annie.
Yeah, great, great. Yeah, great to know. So you see, it is, I mean, that's why I get such a positive vibe out of this film. So we got also Michaela Moy, who just asked a question. Do you want to ask the question live, Michaela? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. It's quite dark visually, so I don't know if you can see.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I had 2 questions I posted, but I'm not sure because I'm a documentary director. So one of the questions was, were you and the director friends first, like as artists, before your paintings were stolen? Or did he just see the fact that your paintings were stolen in the news and then get in touch with you? That was my first question.
So then the answer for your first question is that I didn't know the director, Benjamin. I didn't know him before. Benjamin contacted me and Bertil after newspaper in Norway wrote about the story of the follow-up of the robbery. And that's what Benjamin read in the newspaper, and immediately he phoned my number, which is a nice thing in Norway. You basically just type down the name and the phone number comes up. So he just called me right away. And after me discussing it with Bertil, we decided that we're about to meet him and, you know, just see what happens. And there came Benjamin, and I kind of thought for some reason that the documentary director has to be a man, or if it's a male voice, so it's a man that has to be sort of, I don't know, 40 plus, you know. And there came this kind of young dude, quite relaxed, you know, like even younger than me. So I was a little bit surprised. And there, I think I have to admit, and maybe you as a documentary director yourself, you definitely would agree that it's quite crucial to build a totally common trust from both sides. And it was not at all difficult for me, and absolutely not difficult for Bertil to feel the trust towards Benjamin. So it also sort of opened all the possible door for Benjamin to come to our lives. And it's, of course, it happened through a total, not only trust, but also feeling the respect from Benjamin by him saying that whatever there might be at the final version of the movie, whatever scene that we would not want to have there, he absolutely respects it and he removes it. So, you know, when you gain such trust, then you sort of feel there's nothing to hide. And I hope that it sort of shines through the movie, that really also, you know, like especially the scene when Bertil is going to rehab at some point and he buys the drugs on the way. That's, I think, for me, this is one of the most emotional and it's just so, it's so beyond words scene that I have ever experienced in any movie. It's just so raw, it's so nasty, it's so vulnerable. And I know that actually Bertil, the day after, Bertil called Benjamin and said, I don't want this scene to be in. And Benjamin said, of course, I respect. It won't be there. And the next day, Bertil calls Benjamin again and said, no, it has to be there. Because actually, I really think that people should see the nasty side of drugs. Let's say like when the party is over, when the drugs are not the cool thing, when it gets nasty. So yes, have it there. So, you know, like all these little things that Benjamin was both daring, but careful and sensitive. It really created quite fast friendship and trust, mutual trust.
Yeah, because as you said before, you know, before the public came, they actually shoot like 300 hours of film. So basically, it was just living with you, right? I mean, it was just following you everywhere. So it was really part of your life for a certain, you know, set time. You know, 300 hours, it's a long time. So I guess you really have to accept that. I mean, you have to say yes, because if not, you know, it wouldn't happen, you know, so.
No, right. And you really have to go there at least 100%. It's not like I want to show that part of me and not that part of me. Not this. You have to just subscribe to the full access.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
Otherwise,
yeah.
you would fool yourself. You would fool the audience. You would fool everybody. And art should not do that. And I think this movie, I do see this movie as art. For me, it really is an art movie. So I think the creator made a great job, and he had the full access and the full honesty. And I hope it shines through.
So you embarked on a different medium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got Adriana that was asking about the shooting process.
But there was one more question from Michaela, I think.
Yeah.
She said she has two.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So the other one was, obviously it covers quite a long period of time in the film. And I thought it was very well crafted together. But obviously he captured lots of small moments. Obviously, like as a director, you know, the guy's going to go to rehab tomorrow. He's told you he's going to go, so you can be there at that moment on the walk and stuff. But for moments where, like when you went to buy the grapes and then you didn't have enough money on your card to buy grapes, like did he kind of know, like did you kind of give him the heads up, oh, you can come follow me today, but just so you know, I'm pretty skint. And this, you know, I'm going to buy some grapes, but it might not work. Or did he, because obviously he was filming in a shop and you need permission, that type of thing. So how did those moments work with you?
You're such a nerd, and I see that you're from the field. That's nice. So yeah, well, the filming was lasting 3 years. So Bertil and I, we were filmed for 3 years. And as you said, yes, of course, there were like when Bertil goes to rehab. So of course he knows the day ahead that's the plan. So he calls Benjamin and they agreed, okay, so let's meet tomorrow here and there at that hour, etc. But like these more like tiny daily details, like for example, me going to the store to kill my hunger, which I did not manage. That's like just Benjamin was around to film me painting. And then I was like, listen, I really need to get at least coffee. Like I just need the coffee. And it's not that I discussed with Benjamin the condition of my bank account. I mean, he knew I'm not like the richest person in the world, but that was not the case. But so he just was like, okay, so maybe we just go and just to do this kind of footage of the daily thing. So of course, yes, he of course first had to come to the shop and ask for the permission, speak with the manager of the shop, but this was done pretty fast, so it was not like a big deal. So it was not like planning to film how broke artist I am. It just happened. Like I basically really thought I could get the coffee and the grapes. I did not really want to make big fuss about it, but then it became certain fuss, yeah, because suddenly the cart was just not allowing it to happen. So I at least got the coffee, if I remember, yeah. It was quite cheap coffee.
Well, they should cover all your expenses while you're working with you know,
I was not working for them.
No,
I was working on my life. That's but honestly, of course, Benjamin, the director, he got me to so many lunches during the shooting, because actually my studio and his office were just a few minutes from each other. So it was a walking distance. So then we were just like, do you mind if I come over for lunch? Sure, Bora, come. Great.
Okay, that sounds good. So are we done with Michaela? Yes. Shall we go to Adriana? Would you like to ask the question directly?
Yeah, hello. I just want to talk about, like, obviously you talk about the shooting process already, but I would like to ask, because obviously the documentary is structured about the certain passage about you and certain passage about Bertil. And did you see the footage before, or did you see it during a screening? Because you both have to have a different reaction because you didn't know what was happening at that time. And if you can talk about that.
Sure. And yeah, of course, we both, Bertil and me, we had to watch the film, the kind of like a, you know, the edit cut when the edit cut was done, or the edit lock, sorry, edit lock was done. So, or before the edit lock, obviously, so that like we would approve that all the scenes that are there we are fine with. So that was the kind of raw footage we saw without any post-production, without music, etc. It's just to kind of see what scenes are there. And also, you know, during all the 3 years that the filming was happening, so Benjamin felt kind of obliged to keep both Bertil and me informed about how the film sort of develops in his head and how he would see, because it first started in his mind as a short video, just like maybe 10 minutes, that would basically spin around the actual robbery. But pretty fast he understood, the more he got to know Bertil, the more he understood that this is such a unique material, you know, to work with. I mean, if you have Bertil in your life, you know that it's just a roller coaster and you never know where is the next curve going, when is the next up and when is the next fall down. So it started to develop into longer footage, like maybe it was supposed to be half an hour. And then at the end, Benjamin was really fighting a lot, because like if it was only up to him, the film would be over 3 hours. So as he says, he had to drop off a lot of his darlings. A lot of very important scenes were also, they just had to go out because, you know, he had to reduce a lot. But for me, when I first saw the kind of raw footage before the edit lock, that was, of course, the first time I also saw what was filmed with Bertil while I wasn't there. And for sure, and I can't speak for Bertil, but of course he had the same experience the other way around. I saw it still without the Norwegian subtitles, so I didn't know what Bertil was saying when he spoke in Norwegian. The first time I actually saw or understood what he was talking about or what he was saying in these scenes, that was happening at the Sundance. So there, actually, I got the true kind of unexpected emotional impact, I have to admit. So
Because the two of you were speaking in English, right?
yeah, well, you know, I mean, painters don't really talk much in general. So I did not have much of motivation. I mean, of course, I had great motivation to learn the language. And the motivation is that Øystein, my boyfriend, he is a writer, Norwegian writer, and he writes in Norwegian. And I desperately want to know what he writes about. The problem is that I just have, you know, the days are too short and there are just too many paintings that I need to paint. So I just don't really have the time and know-how how to really draw into Norwegian. So yeah, with Bertil, we spoke only in English.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, but it's interesting that we would like to see the extended version of the film. Maybe, you know, in the future, Benjamin is going to, you know, work out the like Blade Runner, you know, the
yeah, right. No, actually,
really serious.
yeah, right. No, I think right now it's very new information that there is a DVD out in Norway. I don't know how many subtitles it has, but it has some extra material, but I don't know what. But you can indeed order the DVD in Norway, and there would be some extra material. But I also think that in future there should come the editor's cut, which would be kind of endless marathon of maybe even the whole 300 hours.
Wow.
Wow.
That will be great.
All right.
Be ready for that. Absolutely. So Rebecca, would you like to ask a question directly?
Thank you very much. And yeah, thank you for the film. I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the surprises throughout. Certainly didn't expect some of that. Yeah, as I said in the chat, again, it's quite a personal question. I hope you don't mind. But at the end of the film, it did seem that Bertil was in a really positive place. And I felt that there was a real happy ending for him. Mm-hmm. And for you, I thought it was a little bit more ambiguous. You clearly had some worries about money. You were in couples therapy, but I thought maybe that was a good thing. And so I'm really keen to know, was the exhibition a success? And did you have your happy ending as well?
Such a nice personal question. Thank you. I wish all of them are like that. First, let me just say about Bertil, that this happy ending actually is also the happy beginning. I mean, he really, for now, he's almost 3 years, he is sober. And I think he's just in as stable position in his life as probably he might have hardly ever been to. Like, he's finishing his bachelor studies. He is starting to work also as a, you know, like also some years back, he also worked as a kind of assistant to a troubled kids, like kids with ADHD and all these traumata. So he's actually now kind of back on that track as well. And he's also, so it's basically kind of like a social work. He's also, now recently, he's starting to also cooperate with the inmates in the prison where he used to be, that we saw in the movie, in the Halden prison. So he's there a few days a week where he sort of talks to the guys there and, you know, just give them a talk and little know-how, little advices how to step back to the real life out there, you know, and to give them support. And like, biggest respect to this man for what he achieved. It's really, it's crazy what this guy was through, what I observed, and where he is today. It's just, I mean, I've never seen anything like that. Never heard of anything like that. Seems like you've been
quite a big part of him kind of picking it all up. So kudos to you.
No, he's just fucking beautifully rocking his life now. And for me, well, I'm rocking my life too, sort of. Of course, since the movie came out to the world, so it happened to be that more people got to know also about my art and showed their interest, which is of course beautiful. So if I just could say, like, today I can buy both coffee and grapes and I can take my man out for a dinner and I can even pay rent and I can buy new oil colors and brushes without counting every coin, you know. So it's going good. Thank you. It's going good.
Delighted to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So it's been I guess a long development process, right? You know, through the film, through your life, the life of Bertil as well. So, but it just seems like you finally you're in a steady position now compared to how you started.
But steady, I mean, how steady life can be, one don't know.
Yes. Especially now, let's say.
Yeah, right. No, but of course, I mean, the life moves on and we're in new situations, and I can't emphasize enough on what was my initial wish, why to say yes to the filming. And that really, really is, or my motivation was to show to the world, if the world wants to see, what happens when you approach a person with no prejudice. Like, you have tons of reasons to condemn the person, but you decide to try not to, and to see what happens. And as far as I can say now, for me, it's a total, I gained so much from not having anger, but actually to have rather curiosity and just a human presence towards another human being, to sit on the same level, to look from eye to each other, and just let him to my life, and realizing that he also lets me in his life. So that really for me was the main reason why I said yes to the movie. Of course, I'm not stupid that much. I understood, yes, it might be good promotion for my painting. Sure, hallelujah. But it just went all hand in hand, and to see the reaction of the world, of the audience, and all the messages we've been receiving, Bertil and me, since the movie came out to the world, I actually see that the message of sort of human coexistence really did get through. And so that's for me like mission accomplished, and I could not wish for more. So I'm beyond happy.
Thank you. Thank you. We got a question from Alex and then Claire. Would you like to ask directly, Alex or Claire?
Yeah, it's Alex here. Hi. Congratulations. The movie's incredible, and it's kind of quite surreal hearing you talk now, having seen the movie, and it's all still kind of processing at the moment. One of the questions I was just kind of thinking about as we've been talking, see, like 3 years and like 300 hours of footage and stuff, so much was going on. Was there ever a point where you're like, this is too much? Like, did it ever feel overbearing? And was there ever a point where you were just like, I can't do this? Or were you always dead set in seeing this through from the moment you kind of met?
I think this question would be much more interesting to ask Bertil.
Okay.
And you might understand why. I mean, his life is, once more, let me use the kind of comparison to the roller coaster. We see his total ups and downs there. For me, I was sort of just the kind of boring character that just sits or stands in my studio and paints. And sometimes I just, I don't know, go out or say hello to my boyfriend, but then I just run back to the studio. So I'm not the most dramaturgy equipped person. So for me, it was not really, no, I did not have any of these moments, but without wanting to speak for Bertil, but I know that for him, there were some moments where he really was close to drop out of the project. But then what he told me later off the cameras was that, as I spoke about sort of my motivation of why to say yes to the filming, that I wanted to just show to the world that it's possible to meet each other in a quite friendly field, despite any other circumstances. So what was Bertil's motivation was to sort of pay me back the fact that my art was stolen. So to kind of pay back, because he knew that it might be a great place to show my art. So for that reason, he said to me that that's what sort of made him to stay in the project. Of course, no doubt there also was other voice in him saying that, man, this is finally some real platform where people can see my story and I can be seen and heard. Not like heard, but heard, like to hear, not to hurt. So I think, yeah, he probably, when he put all these thoughts together, he then decided to stay on the project. But for me personally, no, I did not have any moment where I thought of it's too much. No, it was just opposite. Like when the filming kind of stopped, I was like, in the next week where I was suddenly like in my studio and there was like no camera around. It just suddenly felt strangely empty. You know, it's like, where is Benjamin? Where is the photographer? Where is the attention?
How many people do you normally have around?
None.
Well, while they were filming, I mean, like how many?
Okay, so when they were filming, it was mostly only Benjamin.
Okay.
He really was very often, he was the photographer. But then if there was extra person, so it was a wonderful photographer called Christopher Kumar. And so he was the actual like official photographer. And but he unfortunately did not get as much free time as Benjamin did from his bosses. So he just was not as available as Benjamin. And I mean, for my case, it did not really matter whether it was 2 or 1 people, but sometimes I think with Bertil, it was rather beneficial that there was only Benjamin, even though Bertil and Christopher Kumar also connected very well. But sometimes the scenes or the moments were too private, and it was better if when there was just as few people as possible. So yeah, it was all really intimate settings. You know, even if there were both of them there, it still felt like you are not being disturbed in your privacy or in your universe.
Yeah, well, that's I guess for a documentary, that's a very important thing, you know, to have a filmmaker or a photographer that kind of disappear into the wall, that, you know, you just don't even notice, you don't pay attention because they're really part of the environment and they don't bother you at all. That's the most important thing. That's why they got such incredible inverted comma performance, because you were actually yourself, you know.
Pretty much true. Of course, I'm not saying that it did not take me a while to sort of get used to the fact that there's somebody in my studio. But once more, it's about Benjamin's sensitivity and ability to turn to so-called the fly on the wall. Like really, it's just suddenly you really realize that you don't pay attention. And furthermore, when there was Bertil around, so you can also imagine that he managed to make the life bigger than life. Like there were situations that were just so beyond, so that you really don't pay any attention to the fact that there is some other person present, because the situation between Bertil and me or around Bertil was just big enough to take all your attention, that there was no more space for, you know, take into your however subconscious part of your mind that there is also some camera or whatever. It just was totally off the grid.
There's a lot of trust involved on kind of like different levels and different like angles of the.
I think that's the most crucial thing, the mutual trust. Yes, absolute.
Would you see yourself doing another movie, or, you know, get involved in another documentary about your art or about other thing? Have you ever thought, or do you have any project or people asked you?
Well, if you allow me to paint, do whatever you want around. It's okay. Actually, but no, indeed. Okay, so first of all, my boyfriend, he has a history. He also made a feature movie a few years back, or 10 years back. And he also made a theater plays. So he's skilled into this kind of film language. And he also was quite a nice and I think important advisor for Benjamin when it comes to dramaturgy or different ideas. So he's just not really credited because he's one of the characters there. So my boyfriend, he actually decided with my kind of allowance that we will start to do some just like, you know, little videos just from our kind of life there in the forest, because we realized for some obscure reason on YouTube, all these like beautiful Scandinavian women living in the forest, it's just so popular in the world. So we just want to kind of mock that a little bit while being in our remote, gorgeous place in the Swedish forest. So to kind of have the clash of the nature and the culture. So yeah, let's just to have just a little fun. Why not? But then there is one Czech woman. She's a documentarist, and she might be thinking, or I know that she's been thinking actually since many years to start to make a documentary about me. That was before the thing with Bertil happened. And then the thing with Bertil happened and Benjamin stepped in. So my Czech friend got a little angry in a good way. It's like that she was not fast enough, because obviously the Czech budgets for culture are quite small. So, you know, she just had to be more patient. But there are some things coming up now, but not about me as me, but it's more about to to kind of give a spotlight to the art scene of, let's say, mostly female artists in Czech Republic, my home country. And I might be part of it, and we will see what will come out of that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, but it's interesting because, of course, since you worked in one, then it's good to go ahead and maybe develop.
And since I have such a good acting education now.
Everything is so mixed now. Now we do video, we do photo, we do art, we do everything together. It's really a crossover of everything. Yeah.
But speaking of crossovers, actually, there is now, and it's allowed to talk about it publicly because I think some Norwegian newspaper wrote about it. And that is that the documentary film, The Painter and the Thief, is most likely going to turn to a fiction movie with a Hollywood production.
Oh, really? What do you feel about that?
I don't know more about that. I just know it's really most likely to happen.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
very inevitable. I think watching it, you'd thinking someone's going to do this. It's like, it's too
They
good.
always have to do that.
Yeah, right. But I mean, what can you do about that? I mean, I don't know. I was just imagining if I saw that story as a fiction movie, I would be like, oh, don't fool me, you Hollywood twats. It's like, do you think I would believe that?
We're going to go for a cheesy question.
Life is bigger than life sometimes. So
who, like, in a kind of like surreal world and kind of a cheesy question, we've got to have one of them. Who would you like to play you, except for you, obviously, with your extensive acting experience, and who would you see playing yourself?
Scarlett Johansson, of course. Who else?
Oh. Not bad.
Someone said that there.
Yeah, she would take too much attention because she's just too beautiful. So
don't take it away from yourself. You're beautiful as well.
thank you.
Well, we're going to see about how the film will end, because I know that even for example the next Icelandic film, Rams, is being remade. So there is a remake in Hollywood, which is complete the other, it's like another movie, another story, another world. There's nothing that, it seems like they're not even brothers, the film. They're not even got anything in common. So, I'm just wondering about what Hollywood can do about such an incredible...
It can go both ways. And of course, you never know. And we would not have any influence on that. It's like it goes to the hands of a production, and it goes to the hands of certain chosen director, and we could just kind of
have you not been asked to consult on the characters? Because I mean, like, it would be a big part of, like, obviously the film is like the documentary is focused around the two of you. Obviously that the Hollywood production might have a different angle, but haven't you been approached to consult on the character of yourself?
Once more, I can't speak for Bertil because we're now not in the same country, and somehow the situation doesn't allow us really to meet physically, and we just talk about different things when we meet on social media with Bertil. So I don't know how he was approached, but I was on a call with the few productions that seem to be involved in that, and I got the feeling that they really want to do it in the most respectful way and have me as involved as I wish. So I somehow have an intuitively good feeling, but once more, I have absolutely zero experience with the world of movies, and especially fiction movies, and especially Hollywood. So it can go every possible way. But it's interesting already, the fact that somebody finds this story challenging enough to wanting to turn it to a fiction movie, which somehow doesn't really make sense to me, to be honest, but how could I say no?
Yeah, that's sure. No, but well, we're going to see. Of course, we don't know. I think though that this is such a also European story in a way. I mean, it's set in the old continent, the culture, the identities are just so different. So the fact that they will be transposed in the United States, which, are completely different, it's they really need to adjust it and to adapt, and, just really in a different way, definitely. But interesting. Definitely.
Well, I kind of would say that Europeans have heard about Europe, so maybe they might take this into account.
Yeah, well.
I vaguely remember when the story came up in the UK, because like, well, I'm from Poland and I've lived here for like, you know, many years, but like we never ever hear anything bad happening in Scandinavia. So it's kind of like, wow, something happened there. Someone stole paintings in the middle of a day. It's kind of like, it makes you think it's so typical because it's so unexpected. But yeah, so I remember I didn't have internet back then, so I could not look you up. But then yeah, just kind of like, it's funny to go back to it in the memory of like, what is going on?
Okay, if I may say here, it's brilliant note that you're bringing up, because before I moved to Oslo, I lived in Berlin, Germany for 7 years. And if somebody would tell me that within 1 year after I moved to Oslo, somebody in Oslo would steal my paintings, I mean, first of all, wherever in the world, if somebody steals my paintings, it's just too absurd. But all of the places, it would be Oslo, where exactly like you have this kind of idea that that's the perfect world. The social democracy works very well. The social welfare system, you know, everybody's happy. Nobody needs to break into a jewelry store, let's say a gallery. It's like, it just doesn't make sense. But of course, once you live in Oslo, or what I think even Stockholm, definitely, but I can only talk about Oslo, you do realize that there are drug users there as well. There is a mafia there as well. There is a lot of nasty things happening in Oslo as well. It's just maybe somehow the society is more able to keep it, you know, under the carpet, like a little dirt to sweep it under the carpet.
But what about the Scandi noir? What about the Scandi thrillers? You know, we're completely surrounded, you know. Whenever we just look at TV series or, you know, a big movie, you know, it's all about Scandi noir. So I guess there's something it's happening in those countries, right?
It might be more like, you know, since everybody is just so kind of nice and calm, maybe this Scandi noir could be, I'm just predicting, I'm not at all Scandinavian. So it can be sort of like to release, you know, the steam of the secret pot, you know, like that just our darkest thoughts to go out, because, and let's face it, that was really huge challenge for me to experience my first both summer and winter in Scandinavia, because you've got like either light 24 hours a day or a darkness 24 hours a day. And it really messes up your mind insanely. And Oslo is not as tough as, for example, whatever more northern part of Norway or even Iceland. That's just so, I do understand that you have quite limited access to alcohol, because if you didn't have it.
I've heard it's really expensive as well.
What is not expensive in Scandinavia?
Okay. Do you find like the kind of like the natural kind of day and night and kind of like seasons like change from Czech Republic?
Oh yeah.
Do you find it kind of like it influenced, maybe kind of like, has it had any influence on your arts? I mean, that's the question I wanted to ask, because it's very different to what we used to.
Oh, sure. As I said before, I moved to Oslo from Berlin, so I already was for some years away from my fatherland, from Czechia. But, you know, since it's so easy when I work to get so lost in time, I really don't watch clock unless I listen to an info radio like BBC, for example, where you kind of get reminded of the time. So even then, I just don't listen to the time. I just listen to some other words. So it's easy to get lost in time, and I kind of oriented myself with the time about the daylight, which worked pretty well in both Prague and Berlin and Oxford, because I also used to live in Oxford for 1 year. But then I moved to Oslo, and this clock was gone, because I could not orient myself through the daylight, because either I thought that it's, I don't know, 7 o'clock in the evening, but it was 11 in the evening because the light was the same, or in the winter, the opposite. But
So it's
what
more like you
probably
in
now
or out of the studio.
it's like you enter in the darkness and you leave in the darkness, sure.
Yeah.
But I have to say now, with a certain amount of years back, like in the retrospective, when I look at my works from Norway, I realized that my palette, my colors got quite colder. You know, I stopped using these kind of sienna brown colors, and I turned it more into kind of grayish, violet, bluish. And I know that actually was happening, like consciously. I realized that this is the change when I visited Lofoten Lofoten Islands at the very north in beginning of November, where it was the most amazing light I've ever seen. It was only 3 hours of daylight per day, but it was such a crystal clear light. And I don't know, it was the purest light I've ever seen. I mean, I've been to Tuscany, I've been to Provence, beautiful, warm, everything, but there in Lofoten, you suddenly realize it's almost like you see through the layers, you see under the skin. It's like there's, nothing hidden there. Everything is visible.
Yeah.
And it was just really, it got me totally. It won me over 100%. So probably I started to put it into my paintings unconsciously, and now I can see it.
Yeah, I'm actually very curious about the painting you got behind you. Can we see it? Can you tell
Well,
us what you're talking about?
I'm here not because I want to have the painting behind me, but it's because the only place where I have some proper light heading to that's my working wall. Yeah, I don't know how much you can see.
Oh yeah, now we can see it. Yes.
You have some reflection of the light here, unfortunately, but
It's a hug.
Yeah, I'm working on this painting now. And that's a painting of, I still don't have the title for it, but it doesn't matter at all. It's not about titles, but it's, maybe I can do like a little bit more like this. Yeah, you see the nice chair, but what you don't see at the bottom is, it's two girls. It's my dearest friends from Germany, from Leipzig. They're a couple, Mareike and Maria. And I have them in, like, let's say they're wearing a skirt, which actually runs through several paintings of mine. And you have seen them in the movie. It's the Bertil with the wine glass. He wears one type of a skirt. The same skirt appears also on the final painting of Bertil and me. We both wear the same skirt. So I have a kind of series of portraits of people that I know, that are my friends, and in kind of positions or situations, how I kind of see that kind of is their signature. So they're in this position, I have them in that composition, and they all wear the same skirt, which for me, this skirt might symbolize certain type of a stigma. Shall that be a social stigma? Shall that be a stigma of being humans all together? We all kind of have things in common. And so it takes the form of the skirt. Like we all have our kind of marks that we might want to keep hidden or even exposed as we want. And so I kind of, put it in the metaphor of the skirt in several of my paintings currently.
It connects the people then throughout your artwork.
It's like Ariadne string, running through all of us.
Yeah, we were wondering about that actually, like me and a friend who were like, we were watching a film together and we're like, well, we saw that one before. So yeah.
You're a good observer, thank you.
Thank you.
No, actually now I remember you also mentioned the prison, and that's what I also want to give a little reflection about. Because you might see that, the Norwegian prison actually looks quite nice. And it really is as nice as it looks in the movie. I visited Bertil several times, also together with Oystein, with my boyfriend. We came there to visit Bertil. And the staff there was just so friendly. It was so nice. And we were allowed to kind of go even to, kind of like the inmate area. And really, everybody was just so nice. And I even saw, like, they had the inmates, they even have like different workshops, like for carpenting, for even visual arts, for digital graphics. So, I even thought like, oh my God, maybe I should just get to the Norwegian prison because I can paint here and I don't have to, care about all these terrible existential things like rent and food. And then it was just amazing reflections from the American audience when they saw this from the Norwegian prison. They were like, oh my God, we thought this is some form of a hostel, or, like they could not imagine at all that this is how the prison system works in Norway. And so that also why I'm talking about this is that I saw Bertil at the moment when he was actually heading to the prison. And then 8 or 9 months later, as he was leaving the prison, it was a totally different person. He really managed to compose himself in prison. So yes, you might on one hand think of, oh my God, this is so terrible, he goes to prison. Actually, no, it saved his life, in my opinion, to be there, So I think it was one of the very important basic steps that he started to build his stable situation where he is today.
Well, you can't say the same for many other countries. You know, probably Norway prisons are much better, but you know, definitely.
That's why I say Norwegian prison
Yeah,
system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really great to hear you say that he's still in a good place, because that's important. Yeah.
Thank you for acknowledging that. Yeah.
Well, I really want to thank you, and we really appreciate all your contribution. I really felt that, you know, you not only in the movie you put out your life, but also during this talk, you know, it's like you're really out there, and we really just love this. Absolutely.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, and we would love to hear more from you. So, you know, really hope that your project, either films or art or whatever you want to do, will bring you either to the UK, or we'll come and see you in Norway. Why not?
Well, I love UK. It's totally my blood group. I loved to live in Oxford when I did back in 2004. So I would love to come back whenever. And yeah, sure. I mean, I'm painting, so, you know, there's constant new pieces kind of put back to my website. And when the world opens up a bit, I really hope I can bring my paintings in flesh to UK, to London, or wherever UK wants to have me.
That'd be great. There. You know, if you need any place to stay, help, or whatever, you just call me up. Okay.
Thank you. I will.
Thanks so much, Barbara.
Yeah. Stay safe and healthy, everybody.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.